Imagine you sit down at your desk to study for 2 hours. You have a clear plan and a running clock. At the start, your mind is clear. You understand what you're reading, you can connect new ideas to things you already know, and you can explain what you just learned. But then something changes. You find yourself reading the same sentence 3 times. You reach the bottom of the page and realize you've already forgotten the first paragraph. You start making errors that normally would have been easy to catch. Despite these signals, you continue. The timer hasn't hit 0 yet. You stay at the desk because stopping early feels like a lack of discipline. We often treat study progress as a measurement of time, but time does not tell the whole story. The clock continues at a constant speed, but your cognitive performance does not. Think about your phone when the battery hits 5%. The device is technically powered on. You can still send a message or open an app. But you wouldn't expect it to run a demanding, high-performance application for long without crashing. Your brain operates on a similar principle. Physical capability, staying in the chair or keeping your eyes open, is not the same as high-level mental functioning. Being technically capable of continuing a task does not mean you are still operating at your best level. The question isn't, can I physically continue? It's, am I still learning effectively? This is where we use the concept of a cognitive cycle. A cognitive cycle is one complete period of focused work that lasts only as long as your performance remains effective for the task. This graph plots energy against time. A cycle starts at a peak where you can engage meaningfully. During this phase, you can solve problems, remember what you learn, and make reasonable judgments. As you work, your mental energy is used up. Eventually, you hit a tipping point where your performance crosses this threshold and begins to decline. Recognizing this decline is the signal that your current cognitive cycle is naturally ending. The goal of this framework is to identify that drop-off point. You want to protect the quality of your learning rather than artificially extending a session that is no longer productive. But does this mean you should stop the moment the work feels difficult? Not necessarily. On the left, we have productive difficulty. The work feels hard, but you can still reason. You can test solutions, identify the problem, and learn from the mistakes you're making. Compare that to actual cognitive decline. This is when you reread without understanding. You lose the thread of your own argument or forget the previous step in a process. More time spent here produces less useful learning. This changes how we use standard tools like the Pomodoro technique. A study timer provides structure and helps you begin, but the timer doesn't have to be a dictator that forces an automatic stop. Instead, it becomes a checkpoint. The timer says, check your current performance. While time creates the checkpoint, only your actual cognitive performance should decide if you continue. When you confirm that you've reached the end of a cycle, the first rule is simple: stop starting new, difficult work. Instead, enter a deliberate wrap-up phase. Finish the current paragraph. Save your work state. Write down one key insight, or mark the very next action you need to take. This deliberate wrap-up acts as an anchor. By recording exactly where you are, you reduce the friction and the cognitive load required to restart the next session. Finally, you must recover. This means giving your brain actual downtime to restore its capacity for high-level thinking. Treating the wrap-up and recovery as essential steps allows you to stack several high-quality cycles in a single day, rather than burning out on one long, ineffective session. During your next study block, run a small experiment. Before you start, write down one clear objective, like understanding a specific section of a chapter. Periodically pause and ask yourself diagnostic questions. Am I still making meaningful connections? Is my thinking noticeably slower? Am I just looking at the page without processing the words? This shifts your focus. You stop asking, how long did I study? And start asking, how many high-quality cycles did I complete? But this leads us to another question. If time is such a flawed way to measure learning, why don't we rely on it so heavily as our main metric for productivity? We'll look at that in the next episode. For now, focus on protecting the quality of your thinking, rather than simply maximizing the ticking of the clock.